And as we move forward on this Wednesday, I just want to take a personal moment to say that I'm humbled, and we here at Way Too Early are humbled by and grateful for the service of all of our veterans on this Veterans Day morning. We can't thank you enough for the freedom and this democratic system that we all enjoy. So thank you very much. That was Way Too Early on this Wednesday morning. Stick around. Morning Joe starts right now.
After a moment of posing for photographers, it was into the White House to continue what has been a day of transition business for the president-elect. The president pledged personally to Carter he would do everything needed to make the transition smooth.
There could not have been a better demonstration of unity and friendship and goodwill than has been shown to me by President Ford since the election.
With the president grinning broadly, he escorted the Reagans back outside, saying, "We're very glad to have you here."
And I must say, the president was most gracious, most helpful, and has gone all out to be completely helpful in the transition.
When George Bush walked down to welcome Bill Clinton to the White House, both men were ready to focus on the future, not the pain of their bitterly fought campaign. But they spent twice as much time together as had been planned, including an hour and a half alone in the Oval Office. Afterward, Clinton was clearly grateful for the tone Bush established.
It was a terrific meeting. The president was very helpful to me.
The times when a first-term president invited the new president-elect to the White House after losing the election. Simpler times. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe. It is Wednesday, November 11th, Veterans Day. Along with Joe, Willie, and me, we have White House reporter for the Associated Press, Jonathan Lemire, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent and host of Way Too Early, Casey Hunt, and politics and journalism professor at Morgan State University, politics editor at The Grio, and an MSNBC political contributor. Jason Johnson is with us as well.
You know, Willie, I'm just a simple country lawyer.
Oh, no, here we go.
No, Willie knows this.
Yeah.
We tried some cases together in rural Alabama.
I still feel bad for our clients.
How'd that go?
Joe. We're working. Sitting on death row, I feel terrible about it, but yeah, go ahead.
Well,
stop.
Our heart really wasn't in it.
No.
I mean, we had to adjourn to go see a couple Alabama games, but anyway, I just don't get it. There's some career moves I don't understand. I mean, us going down there and doing capital cases, I don't do that bad career move on our part. Us getting involved in that import-export business and out of Turkey.
Okay, what's your point?
In the early 70s.
Funny.
I don't get that. Lizzo's Instagram post yesterday. I'm not sure what the career move was there.
I showed him that.
But maybe there's something. Yeah. And what Donald Trump is doing right now. I don't really... What's the career move there? Because he knows there are no paths left for him. There's no... I mean, the counts keep going up in Georgia and Pennsylvania. He's not going to get a recount worth anything that's going to add up to anything in Wisconsin. Even Scott Walker said that. He's not going to get it in Michigan. So he's just setting himself up to lose one challenge after another challenge after another challenge. And that if he does want to run again in 2024, it just doesn't help him at all. Just being seen as a loser repeatedly in all of these stupid challenges.
Somebody did that with loser.com.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Biden keeps running up the score, frankly, as these counts come in from Arizona, as more votes came in yesterday from the state of Georgia, from Pennsylvania. Some people think the margin in Pennsylvania, some people who know, say it could be 100,000 votes in that state. So we're well outside now recount territory, except with the state of Georgia, where they may announce today if they're going to have a recount. But you're right, the more they push back, the more they fight, the worse this seems to get. You've had court cases dismissed in states across the country, vote counts going up, Joe Biden now winning the popular vote by more than any challenger to a one-term president since FDR in 1932. And if you look at a poll that was out yesterday, I think it tells the story. There's a lot of noise coming from the Trump campaign and from some Republicans, but here's where the country is. Reuters Ipsos poll. 79% of the country, not of Democrats, of the country believe Joe Biden won the election. 13% have not yet decided. 5% don't know. And 3 not 30, not 13, 3% of Americans believe Donald Trump won the election. So he's losing in court. He's losing votes with every passing moment. And America, despite what you're hearing from the campaign and all the loud noise and all the protests that you're hearing from some Republicans, some of them couching it, others being more vocal about it, the American people know what happened here. And Joe Biden, by the way, and the world are moving forward with the fact that he is president-elect.
Everybody is. And Casey Hunt, you look at what's happening in Georgia. Mitch McConnell's status as majority leader is on the line. I mean, if they get this behind them and run tough campaigns, they've got a better than even shot of picking up both of those seats. But right now they're creating a civil war in Georgia in the Republican Party. And those two senators especially are just looking stupid, chasing conspiracy theories that really relatively few people believe. So why put your Senate seats, and in fact, why put the Republican majority at risk? All you're doing is, I know they're thinking they're whipping up the Republican base, but they're doing the same to the Democratic base. And, you know, Donald Trump's not going to be on the ballot when those special elections are run. And Republican support drops way off when he's not on the ballot.
Yeah, that's exactly what we learned from the 2018 results and then the 2020 results. And Joe, the only way that I can explain it is that they're still incredibly scared of tweets from President Trump. I mean, they are afraid that he will start attacking one or the other of the senators if they don't, toe his line. They're afraid that that will turn off, what Republican voters do exist that will show up to the polls because they like Trump. They're afraid of the base, and that's been the narrative all the way along here. And I think when I was reporting going into election night, I think Republicans would have been ready to kind of shuffle President Trump toward the exits if this were the outcome. But this puts them right back in that box that they've been in the entire time, the kind of box that makes people like Mike Pompeo, who we all, treated as a serious person, get up there and say something that is just simply clearly not the case at all, because they're afraid of what President Trump will say to his base about them. I mean, he is still very much in control of where they go on this. And, I mean, to your point, Joe, I think in Georgia, what we learned from Joe Biden winning Georgia really underscores the point that you just made. I mean, it seems obvious to me that the state is changing in a way that reflects all of the problems that President Trump has created for Republicans, especially in these suburbs. And you also, combine that with the get out to vote apparatus that Stacey Abrams has been building in Georgia. And here we are. So, I mean, I think it's in many ways a totally impossible situation for them. But the longer it goes on, the more questions we have. And Republicans yesterday started raising questions about, hey, we got to get this transition underway. There are national security implications here. We really need to kind of get this moving along.
And the president seems to be depleting some very, very important intelligence institutions of top people. We'll get to that. Here are the updates in states where ballots are still being counted and where President Trump is mounting legal challenges and claiming fraud. In Michigan, in 2016, Trump won the state by nearly 11,000 votes. Right now, Biden currently leads there by 148,000 votes, a swing of nearly 159,000 votes. An estimated 18,671 votes remain to be counted there.
So no meaningful recount there.
In Pennsylvania, in 2016, Trump won the state by 44,292 votes. Right now, Biden leads by 45,616. That's a swing of nearly 90,000 votes. An estimated 115,541 votes remain to be counted there. In Arizona, in 2016, Trump won the state by just over 91,000 votes. Right now, Biden leads nearly 13,000 votes, a swing of nearly 104,000 votes. An estimated 51,000 votes remain to be counted there. And in Georgia, in 2016, Trump won the state by just over 211,000 votes. Currently, Biden leads there by just over 14,000 votes, a swing of nearly 225,000 votes. An estimated 32,000 votes remain to be counted there.
Well, Jonathan Lemire, whether you're talking about Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, or Georgia, the margins are not close enough to justify any recount. There will be no meaningful change in any of those results based on history. And you look at Arizona. Arizona has such a tough recount mechanism that you have to get within 200 votes for it to have a possibility of any recount there. And then the campaigns can't even ask for it. So this is a president who's completely blocked out of switching a state that, you know, that would make a difference in the outcome. He would have to flip, 2, 3 states at this point, and it's just not going to happen. Talk to any legal expert on the Republican or the Democratic side. Talk to any election official, as the New York Times did, went across the country. There's just not. It's over. It's over unless he can get Doc's DeLorean time machine and go back a couple of months and start the campaign over again. Like, it's over for him.
Good Back to the Future reference there, Joe. You're right, because even successful recounts tend to pick up a few dozen votes, maybe 100 or so at most, in terms of changing sides. And that's not necessarily to mean that they would break for President Trump. Joe Biden may pick up more votes in a recount. So these margins in these states are just entirely too big. And these legal challenges seem destined to fail. The White House has had no success, any meaningful success so far in any legal challenge. And even if, as you say, one state somehow was to turn its result over, he would still be well short. There are going to be several states he would have to do. And that's simply not going to happen. So now the question is, what next? How long do Republicans let him play out this game? Well, I've talked to some of his advisors in recent days who say, well, what's the harm in giving him a few days here to come to terms with this, to explore all these legal options? That's what we've heard from Senate Majority Leader McConnell and others. But there could be significant harm. This is slowing a transition at a time of true crisis. The coronavirus pandemic is surging out of control across this country, the worst it's ever been, state by state, setting record number of cases each day. And we have a president who, in the meantime, has largely abandoned his day job. He himself has not attended a coronavirus task force briefing in months. His public schedule does not reveal that he's received his intelligence briefing since October 1st. The White House hasn't read out a foreign leader call in weeks. He is simply not governing the country right now at a time of crisis. And we're seeing Joe Biden try to step into that breach. His campaign offered readouts of several foreign leader calls yesterday who offered their congratulations to the president-elect. We know that he has already organized his coronavirus task force, but there's a limit to what he can do right now. He is not the president. He's not receiving these briefings. And there comes a moment, and we may already be there, where the president, Trump's refusal to cooperate with the transition, with the government agencies refusing to authorize the win and allowing these Biden landing teams to enter these government agencies, could be putting lives at risk and endangering the entire nation.
And we're going to talk through more of that New York Times piece Joe mentioned a minute ago, where the Times spoke to election officials in all 50 states, and not a single one of them reported any widespread election fraud, including Republican-heavy states. Donald Trump refusing to concede. Most Republicans on Capitol Hill, as we said, won't publicly admit Joe Biden is president-elect. But President-elect Biden himself is saying the Trump administration's stonewalling will not stop his transition.
The ability for the administration in any way, by failure to recognize our win, does not change the dynamic at all in what we're able to do. We can get through without the funding.
What do you say to the Americans that are anxious over the fact that President Trump has yet to concede, and what that might mean for the country?
Well, I just think it's an embarrassment, quite frankly. The only thing that, how can I say this tactfully? I think it will not help the president's legacy.
Let's go to Wilmington, Delaware, where we find NBC News correspondent Mike Memley, who's been covering the Biden campaign from the very beginning. Mike, good morning. It appears outwardly anyway, and talking privately to some people, the Biden campaign and President-elect Biden himself just not that concerned about this. They know about their leads in these states. They know about the failures of the Trump campaign's legal challenges time and time again. And it seems they just think it's a matter of time, not if, but how President Trump will leave office.
Yeah, Willie, the president-elect at this point is trying to show he's going to govern the way he campaigned, which is promising to try to lower the temperature, to de-escalate the political tensions in this country. And so at a time when Democrats, especially on Capitol Hill, are sounding the alarm about the fact that he has not gotten the opportunity to begin the kind of transition execution that he has been planning for months, Biden himself really downplaying that yesterday, saying it was not consequential, these delays, even the fact that he's not getting the presidential daily brief. But I think it's worth stepping back. I've spent some time over the past year talking to former White House chiefs of staff, to other senior officials involved in multiple transitions, some of which didn't end up happening. And they all say that even in ideal circumstances, the presidential transition, the handoff of power from one administration to another, is a very perilous, potentially, moment for this country. And no one knows that better than George W. Bush, who obviously had a shortened transition because of the contested Florida recount, and then saw in the first 8 months of his administration one of the greatest terror attacks in American history. And so as he went toward the end of his presidency, he gave direction to his then chief of staff, Josh Bolten. I want you to begin planning the most effective, the most seamless transition in presidential history. President Obama's team to this day credit George W. Bush for that, for just how professional and nonpartisan that transition was. In many ways, it created sort of best practices, the gold standard of transition, and that those were actually written into law after Bush's administration by the very man who's now running Joe Biden's transition, Ted Kaufman, former senator here from Delaware. And so where we could have seen potentially another seamless transition with a lot of folks very experienced in governing, we're seeing the Trump administration using a technicality here, a bureaucratic technicality, the idea of ascertaining who is the victor to try to delay that, to withhold it from the president-elect. His team sending, though, all indications that they're trying to proceed nonetheless. They announced yesterday hundreds of names of individuals who will, when they get the go-ahead, begin to go into federal agencies, take stock of what needs to be done, trying to reassure the country that, yes, they're confident they're going to get to this point. But clearly, behind the scenes, there is some concern, and that's why you even had Biden's transition team several days ago talking about the possibility of legal action if there is not any change in this posture in the coming days.
Yeah, and to your earlier point, Mike, the 9/11 Commission actually pointed to that delayed transition as one of the problems, that they weren't prepared. Mike Memley with the Biden transition in Wilmington, Delaware. Mike, thanks so much. Jason Johnson, we heard from world leaders as well yesterday, congratulating some of them again, Joe Biden on his win, Angela Merkel, Boris Johnson, President Macron in France, and notably President Erdogan of Turkey, who has been a close friend of President Trump, and President Trump has pointed to time and again as his friend. Erdogan congratulating Joe Biden on his win there. I showed you the poll a minute ago that only 3% of Americans believe that Donald Trump won this election. So where do you think we are in this process? Most people seem to know where it's headed, except for Donald Trump and a handful of Republicans in the Senate.
Well, I think we're seeing yet another example of the kind of constitutional changes that we would like to see in this country that probably won't happen under Biden. One of the things that we've seen from the Republicans over the last couple of years, the end of Obama and throughout the Trump administration, is, oh, maybe there should be a constitutional law about replacing Supreme Court justices. Maybe there should be rules in place about appointments to administrations. A lot of things that we thought were just norms that people would follow and be reasonable about. If you have somebody in office who doesn't care, they don't happen. This transition is showing that as well. Look, the initial reason for having such a long transition from the end of an election to a new administration is because people used to have to move around the country on horseback, right? We didn't have trains. There's no reason to have a 70-day gap between an election and a new administration anymore. And we're seeing why that is a problem for the same kinds of reasons we've seen problems during the Trump administration. And here's what I think about at a really macro level. Yes, there are larger concerns. Yes, there's national security concerns. But watching Trump manage this transition, it's the same sort of callous disregard for everyday human beings that has sort of defined his entire presidency. People are trying to figure out if they've got to move. There are families in California and Illinois. There are people being asked to join this administration in different places, and they don't even know if they can move yet because they don't know if Donald Trump is going to leave office. This is the callousness that's always defined his administration.
Well, and you even look, that's a great point. You even look on his side, people who have worked for him, people who have put up with a lot of abuse to be on Team Trump that are sitting in the White House who were told last week, if we catch you looking for another job, we're going to fire you on the spot. Everybody that's working in the White House right now is frozen. And the way Washington works is when everybody figures out who the winners are and who the losers are, and they've already figured that out. Like every lobbying company in Washington, D.C.'s figured that out. I've talked about Lockheed and Boeing. The defense contractors have figured that out. Every other think tank in Washington have figured that out. And those people inside the White House right now are frozen and can't look for jobs. They know they've lost their jobs. They know they're going to have to find a new job come January the 20th. And as Jason said, he doesn't care. Trump doesn't care about other people.
And they know that.
Especially his own.
Yeah.
And so they're there twisting in the wind when everybody inside the White House knows that he's lost this race and it's time for him to move on if he's going to really come back and try to run again in 2024. Now's the time to start that campaign, but not by looking like a sore loser. It's a bad look on anybody.
So all this as new COVID-19 cases are rising at an alarming rate.